Recently, due to astrological events, for me and a lot of my friends, tarot has not been functioning. So I think it's time that we talk about the backup plan, or sometimes my go-to, divination system, which is Geomancy. I am Dave the Amateur Magus. On this channel I talk all about the mechanics behind ceremonial magic, occultism, esotericism, and the mechanics behind everything you can find within a dusty old grimoire. If you enjoy what I do here and you want to support the channel, link in the description of the Patreon where you can get exclusive access to videos early, Patreon exclusive content, and the Occultic Manual series, which is a monthly write-up that I aim at being more instructional than what I usually have here on the channel, but more approachable than what you would find in a dusty old grimoire on the channel. If that sounds interesting to you, link in the description to the Patreon, and if you're already supporting me on Patreon, you have my thanks for your continued and ongoing support. Very rarely do I give a instructional book on a topic. This video is different. This video I am going to just straight up start by recommending The Art and Practice of Geomancy, Divination, Magic, and Earth Wisdom of the Renaissance by John Michael Greer. This book is the book I constantly reference whenever I am using divination by Geomancy. And the link to the book will be in the description for the Amazon link. Now, Geomancy is a very powerful divination tool. And how does Geomancy work? Well, when people think of the word Geomancy, they think divination by Earth. Or if you are using a pop culture lens, it is Earth magic. And that is true-ish. We'll get to that in a bit. But for the most part, when it comes to Geomancy, the way Geomancy works is it is a system of casting lots. What you are going to do is you're going to find a method of getting an odd or even number. Now, traditionally, you would pick up stones or you would make dots in the dirt. I prefer dice. I prefer using dice, and I will roll 4 dice, and then I will count the numbers on the dice. If I get an even number, that is 2 dots. If I get an odd number, that is 1 dot. And the reason for this is because Geomancy is a bit of a misleading name. You're using stones or some kind of earthly mechanism, like picking up stones out of a bag and counting the number of stones. If you have even stones, you write 2 dots. If you have odd stones, you write 1 dot. Drawing dots randomly in dirt, right? Something like that. I use dice. I use a couple of 6-sided dice, and then I roll 4 of them. And if I get an odd number, then I write 1 dot. And if I get an even number, I write 2 dots. And then you are using that in order to construct the chart. Now, you're going to do this a total of 16 times, and you're going to have what is known as 4 geomantic figures. Now, there are 16 geomantic figures. Each of them corresponds to a different thing. And the different figures are always positive in one aspect and negative in another aspect. For example, there is a figure called Via. Via is just literally translates to road, or it is commonly called the way, or the journey, or the candle, depending on how literal you're being. Now, when it comes to Via, Via is all about change and a direction, right? It's not positive change, it's just unstable. Things are changing. You are going on a journey. You are going on the hero's journey, which I've talked about on this channel quite a few times, and you are in the process of changing. You are going from point A to point B, and what you are at point B is not going to be the same as what you are at point A. So this indicates that Via is good for things involving change and being mobile and dynamic. However, it is bad in all things that you want to stay the same, right? So this is similar for all of the 16 different geomantic figures. There is figures for total gain of everything. There's one that's literally just called gain. There is one that is just called loss. There is one called joy. There is one called sorrow. There is red and white, which are better explained as destruction and tranquility, respectively, I find. And there is Fortuna Major and Minor, which is the greater and lesser fortunes. Now, all of these are going to be important, and the reason why they're important is because if you don't know these, and this is why I recommended a book at the beginning, you are not going to know how your geomantic reading is going to play out. And your geomantic reading is going to play out differently the entire time. Now, the simplest form of divination that you can do with a geomantic reading is something that you really can't do with tarot, and that is ask a yes or no question. You could do this simply by going and running the entire geomancy system and doing what is called a shield reading. And the way you do this is you can simply check the mother letters, and if the question is, am I going to make money from doing this thing? And you end up doing the entire geomancy spread, and you end up with the final figure, which is actually called the judge. And if the judge is positive, like let's say that the judge is acquisitio, which is gain, then yes, you would make money from it. You might not make a lot, but you will make money. And honestly, it's probably safe to say that you'll make a decent amount of money, because that is the figure of making money, really. But the way it works is you take all of the mother letters and you put them through a process, and then you generate the 4 daughter figures. And the 4 daughter figures then get combined in various ways. The first 2 mother figures get combined, the second 2 mother figures get combined, the first 2 daughter figures get combined, and the last 2 daughter figures get combined, and these create the 4 nieces, I believe. And then from there, they are combined once more. You combine the first 2 nieces, and then you get the right witness, and then you get the left witness by combining the last 2. Geomancy goes from right to left. That's why I said the right witness first. Most people are used to thinking left or right, but in Geomancy you do it backwards. And then you combine the 2 witnesses, and you get the final figure, which is the judge. Now, the judge is the culmination of the entire chart. Now, according to Agrippa, you cannot have a divination system functional without some level of astrology. So you might be wondering, Dave, where is the astrology? Well, you might have noticed that we have 12 different figures, and then we get to the witnesses. These are the 12 houses of the zodiac put into the geomancy system. The first house corresponds to the first house of astrology, the second house corresponds to the second house of astrology, so on through the 12 houses, as well as each of the different geomantic figures having a correspondence to a zodiacal sign as well as a planetary power. This gives us 14 of the figures, 2 for each of the different planets. That leaves us with 2 more because there are 16 different figures, and those correspond to the north and south node of the moon. Now, geomancy is quite an interesting science, but you might be wondering, hey Dave, I thought geomancy was earth magic. Where's the magic part of the earth magic? And this is where we come to the interesting part. You can use these geomantic figures for talisman construction. In fact, in the 3 books of occult philosophy by Heinrich Cornelius Agrippa, he actually gives you different symbols to use in place of the different geomantic figures for use in talismans. In fact, I believe I've mentioned this before in the video discussing the Pentacles of the Greater Key of Solomon, but I firmly believe that in the Greater Key of Solomon, this is what some of those symbols on the insides of the pentacles were. Those were truncated versions of these geomantic figures that were used based on Agrippa's work, right? Agrippa got them from somewhere, and I'm presuming that the person who made the Greater Pentacles of Solomon also used these. So if you were going to go ahead and make a talisman, what you could do is you could incorporate the different symbols for the geomantic figure of gain and maybe Fortuna Major, if you're feeling like it. What you do want to do is make it so that you can orient these, because some of these figures can be flipped upside down, and if they are flipped upside down, they have the opposite meaning. Like if you turn the geomantic figure for joy upside down, it turns into sorrow. So maybe don't do that. Usually what I'll do is I'll have some kind of word encoded in Hebrew, and then I will turn that into the different Hebrew letters. I will find which geomantic figure corresponds to what, and then I will write that down using the geomantic figures. I don't do this very often. I honestly don't use geomantic figures in my talismans very often. However, I will say when I have used them, they give me interesting results, and the results are more visceral. I typically find that they are more grounded results than if I was just doing, say, candle magic, or if I was just getting a spirit to do it, and that's kind of par for the course with talismanic magic, but this is something that I noticed specifically with the geomantic figures. It was a lot more grounded, and depending on what you are ending up doing, it can lead to better or worse results, I've found. It's definitely something I want to try more in the future, but I figured I would mention it here because some people, when they hear the word geomancy, are going to think geomancy is earth magic. So, yeah, divination by rocks is not what they're expecting, and especially with a lot of math involved. But yeah, I'm going to recommend people go check out the link in the description for the John Michael Greer book. That is going to be the method I recommend to learn geomancy from. I know people really like when I give out book sources, so here you go, people who want book sources. There's your book source on geomancy. That being said, I have been Dave the Amateur Magus. Hope everyone is having a good day. If you're not having a good day, hope your day gets better. Take it easy, take care, and I will see you next time.